Welcome. Today I want to do a bit of show and tell. Really, the purpose of this is to go into a little bit of detail about what it actually is that I'm doing when I'm using Claude Code to write software or do things. I want to start from the very beginning of the vision that I had for this particular little project that I started last week. So we've got the ladder logic editor, right? What I wanted is to have something that would render out code that I could use to write control logic for like industrial systems like traffic lights and stuff like that, and see in the browser, on a mobile, whatever, the actual result of running that and be able to observe the system actually working in real time. So I wanted a PLC emulator, so something that runs code in the same way that a programmable like chip would, and it could do it in a browser. So I started off by literally writing this out just for me and also to anchor the AI assistant. And like let's just take a look at what it actually came up with. So when you first open this up, you actually get hit with a little tutorial. Like this is the program, the application, that has implemented this programming language. We can write code in the bottom here. It's telling us how to do stuff, and taking us around the program, like what we can actually do, the variables, etc. And like this is a fully fledged thing. Like I can load an example, can open the docs, click this here. We've got full documentation, we've got examples, we've got a quick start. Like if we want to do a more complicated one, like four-way intersection, all the explanations for it, maybe just do a simple pump. We could try it in the editor. And, you know, we can see the representation of what it would look like in ladder diagram. And it's not perfect. There are some issues with it, but it does display some of the code that it actually can represent in ladder diagrams. Can't do a few things like loops or whatever, but generally, like this full editor has been created. We can inspect it and understand how it's going to work using the visual. We can look at the timers and stuff, and more importantly, you know, edit the actual code. Now, I'm going to just start that running again. This is our like industrial pump here. Some might be slightly hidden. We've got an alarm just out to the side there a little bit. And if I run this and say the low level sensor gets triggered, the pump will run. And the pump is going to run until it hits the high level, and then it will stop running. But if it is running at the low level and the high level, there's some fault condition, well, it's just going to turn off. But if it's low level and dry run, well, we're going to sound an alarm. Like that logic has been implemented here, so we can play around with all of that. And I wanted to dig in now to how I actually did this. So like this full application, you know, can be used. There's also a mobile version as well that you can use on your mobile phone. So, and it's pretty good. Like it has tabs and stuff. You can do all the same things here, editing the code and everything, and it's very smooth. So how did we actually get to this point? So starting with the project vision, I set up a series of files and that I called specs, which are going to define how everything needs to work. We can start off with a small one that I did recently, which was our visual style. So I gave it a direction. So I literally opened up, I said, okay, Claude, all right, we're going to, you know, study some of the reference documents. So like, you know, study the product vision, etc. And then, you know, write me a spec to create a beautiful visual and then it's going to go and come up with something like this. So I had a little bit of extra stuff set up by that point, but let's just go through it. You know, so we've got a design philosophy, etc., etc. So when I want this to be done, there's a series of tasks that it's broken it down into. There's tests that have been identified that it should have. And what we can do with our little Claude then is say in a loop, we're going to say, you know, something like study the new spec. Now that we've got our spec, visual study visual style. If we use this, it'll fill for us. There you go. And then, you know, make decisions about, and then choose the most important task and work on a chunk. I mean, that's almost going to work right there. There's a few other things that we need to specify, like we need tests, we need it to pass, we need it to be deployed, we need it to put it in GitHub, create pull request, all that sort of stuff. The overheads. But this is essentially close to the minute, and I can just run this in a loop. So I literally have a script, it's called Ralph loop, and it'll run essentially this time after time. So what does it actually look like? If I do that, like literally what it is then is I create a file which has the description of the task, study these things, choose the most important task, goal is to complete that entirely, piece by piece, you're done when it's done, use tests, push everything, report success when you're done. So then I literally run the script, and the script basically just runs a Claude, and this Claude, dangerously skip permissions, is going to allow it to do everything it needs to. And then it's not going to break out of that loop. It's going to run iterations over and over again and tell me that it's like running over and over again as we do it. And what that looks like then is when it's finished, we see like in the code, we have like a pull request. Here's one that we just merged, the visual one. Here's the update. Like, you know, we adopted a component library, migrated our CSS files to standard variables, blah, blah, blah. It's like fixed all this stuff. And there's tests. So we've got tests for mobile, tests for desktop. And then we've got 51 files changed, 2,000 lines added, 1,000 lines removed, and 8 commits where it's done chunks. So like a unified design with Tailwind v4, migrate the editor to theme variables, complete visual style migration, etc. Like each of this is a bit of a stage, mostly styling. And some component uplift as well to shad CDN stuff. So, and then that's going to obviously deploy it out. So like, I just want to stress that it's actually a fully real thing. Like the code is hosted here, but it will build it and it will deploy it, and you can try the live demo. And, you know, it's this, right? And we can see that. And we can run it. And it actually runs, like it is running the program. Like it is interpreting this program here, and it is making the outputs happen over on the right-hand side, like it would if it was running on an actual PLC being emulated. One of the things that actually took a lot of time is just defining what it is that it actually needed to do in the first place. The verification is definitely important, and I've still got some work to do there with the automated running of the tests. I realized that it wasn't actually running them in an automated way. But if we look at the documentation, not only is it like, you know, fully generated from the documentation that I built up over time, we've also got like the full language reference that we've created, including links. So I did set off one of these loops on a task, which was basically we want to read the reference spec for IEC-61131-3 and keep going. Keep breaking it down into sections and files until you're done. And I'm reasonably confident that this does most things, at least most of the important bits. I know it doesn't have section 6 written here, but it does seem to have some of the lexical elements handled in other ways. But basically, like, you know, our data types are here. This is where we got some of our information from. It's, you know, sourced. If you need to update it, you can go back there and check things out. You know, the timers, the falling and rising triggers and stuff for that sort of thing. So like all of this spec means that I can chuck it in a loop and say, keep going until the spec is done and find areas that may not have been completely implemented yet. And it will do a pretty amazing job at actually doing that. So like this is an example of a moderately large task. And I think I wouldn't call it absolutely complete. It claims that it's completed the full spec. But when I had a bit of a look, there are some gaps, like that section 6 sort of thing there. So there's a little bit of work to be done there. But there's a lot of people who are doing this stuff, and they're talking about their agent orchestration and their Ralph loops, and it's Gastown, and it's, you know, Loom now. Like all this stuff is coming sort of online. Everyone's doing an agent orchestration platform or project. And it's like, well, what actually is happening, right? Like, what is it literally doing? Like, what actually is it? And it is this. Like, we run MD files in a loop into the prompting thing, the prompting agent, the program that runs the agents, and we use that. And it is this. So, like, if I was going to kick it off for real right now, in my little loop, I could do it like this and just say like /ralph.sh 8 prompt.md, and it's literally doing it now. Like, it's working behind the scenes. This is very basic. People have made much better ones that use like an interface where you can actually see what's coming out, but I've just hacked this together and it kind of works. So I just wanted to share like what output I've actually been able to get out of it. And I think it's kind of insane. Like, it is insane that I can pretty much implement some kind of working programming language. Like, I can type in it. Like, I can write, you know, we can add new variables. Like, new var, you know, equals 200, blah, 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 whatever. Like, or you can define your variables up the top. You can say like something like, is it begin? No, it's just vars. Like, I don't even really know the syntax that well. In out variables, var in out. I think it has to be end var block. Var in var, var in out. It'll tell me if there's errors. There's some things that, like, the positions are correct. It is an error, but it doesn't say anything about how the errors work. Like, why is this an error? And it's because we haven't implemented it. Like the error handling, and it kind of doesn't have any docs to go back to for like why that is part of language spec or whatever. And I think it has to be this. Var in out. End var. Is that it? End var. And then we can say legit bool. Legit is a bool. And, you know, we've got some issues there, some question marks, whatever. Anyway, I don't even really know what I'm doing here, but like there's full on like code completion and stuff. You know, you can do while, we can do new var equals, hang on, speed or something silly like that. Like, what are we even doing here, guys? That's crazy. And then, like, you know, new var is here. And new var, we've got legit is a bool. Legit can be true or false. We haven't hooked it into anything. You know, you can do your ifs. If legit new var is going to be got a boolean. Like, I think, yep, there we go. Don't know the syntax here, but, you know, I can, yeah. Anyway, you get the point. I can write code, and then I can actually legitimately run it. Like this. You know, it's running, it does stuff, it is actually going, it's looping around, it's scanning. New var is equal to speed plus something. We can add timers and stuff to increase that. I guess it's going to loop around a little bit if we do new var is equal to new var plus 1, then it's going to count up each scan. You know, this is just crazy. It's doing the thing. It's working. There's no timers in this one. So I just wanted to communicate where we are currently at, what is actually doable with complete bootstrapped from nothing vibe coding. This is done in about a week, but it pretty much looked like this in about 1 day, like more or less. And you can go and check out the code. It's open source, whatever. Have it. I don't think it's that useful. It's cool, kind of, from a certain perspective. I think the mobile is actually even cooler. The fact that it actually works on mobile as well. So if we go to more tools and the dev tools, yeah, like, you know, we got the different tabs that have come down here. Got the code, the debug panel is going, blah, blah, blah. The documentation is all there. It's insane. It's crazy. The debug is working. It's like, what is going on, guys? Wow. So in conclusion, you can now at this point make fully fleshed out programs, like languages, all that sort of stuff. Like full experiences are possible in days, if not weeks. Entire products can be created now very, very, very quickly. And it doesn't have the problems of like the vibe coded stuff of last year, where it'd be like, well, yeah, great, but it's shit code. You can't read it. Something like that. Like, no, like you can read it. You can understand it. There's some weird bits. Sure. Type checking is not very good. Uses JavaScript one. Don't really like that. It's been pointed out to me. I think it's a bit of a, yeah, it's a little bit of a, yeah, there's some gaps. There's definitely some gaps. But you can read it. It actually does make some degree of sense. And it can be maintained by itself and it can actually move forward in a direction. We can go so much further. And I don't even think we've found the limit. Like, even with the current models of like Opus 4.5, Gemini 5.2, we do not know the current limits. Because we've hit a point where the long-running task problem has essentially been like solved. Basically, like we can, as long as we can manage the context and we have a way of managing the context, like that's the bottleneck right now, is managing what it is that they're actually trying to work on and making sure that that thing actually makes some degree of sense. We've completely passed the, like, set it to do a small coding task. Like, absolutely can do that with the right instruction. And you can use fewer and less instruction than ever before to achieve the goals. So anyway, check it out. Check a link in the description or whatever I'm going to do. This is it. This is what it looks like to be vibe coding in January of 2026. And we are like just over 2 weeks in, and it's going to get absolutely wild throughout this year. Like the type of things that we're going to be able to do. So I just wanted to give that update. Show and tell. This is what I built. It's probably the most complete product, and it wasn't that difficult to push it into complete product territory with like bug tracking and all that sort of stuff, like things that you would actually have in a real application. I know I could add logging. There is some limited logging. It's included in the bug reporting. I could add all that sort of stuff, but like this is a static thing that just runs in your browser locally. So it's essentially free for me to like host this because it's just static JavaScript, HTML or whatever. It doesn't need to do anything remotely at all. Thanks, folks. And that's a log of what we're doing in vibe coding at the moment.